Good evening and welcome to the Australian Stock Market Show. We do hope you've had a great week and are staying safe. Claus Moser once said, education costs money, but then so does ignorance. When it comes to the stock market, ignorance is very expensive in terms of lost opportunity, lost time, lost profit, lost capital, than gaining a good education. The moral of the story is simple. Today is the day to stop playing around the edges wanting to get educated, make a decision, get yourself properly educated. Tonight we have another great show planned for you, so sit back and be open to learning as we take you on a journey to cover many interesting topics and stocks, including Coles Group, BlueScope Steel, Jumbo Interactive, Mineral Resources, Galaxy Resources and more. As always, our aim is to educate and inform you as we answer your questions and bring you our upfront, no BS approach to all things stock market. Our main topic for tonight is top 3 renewable energy stocks to buy in 2021. Hello, I'm Janine Cox, your host for tonight, and joining me is Dale Gillham, and we're Australia's most trusted stock market educators.
Hello.
How are you?
Oh, fairly good.
Awesome.
Yeah. Oh, I'm awake. I'm ready.
That's fabulous. You're just telling me that.
I am.
Why?
I'm fired up and ready to rock and roll. Isn't the market shot up yesterday because Afterpay took off?
Yeah, I know.
And then I saw Afterpay was up again 11% again today. I'm not sure why people are buying it now.
Yeah, I'm really disappointed about this takeover. I don't want Afterpay to get swallowed up by an overseas interest.
You should have seen her yesterday. I tell you, I could have seen the smoke from here. I tell you, it was coming out of her ears. Not because she doesn't think Afterpay is a good stock, but because of it taking off our exchange, an Australian company. Which
that always annoys me. Let's just let our little companies get bigger and bigger, and then all of a sudden some big whale just swallows us up. Now, I learned something about you today.
You did? What did you learn? After 20 years, what did you finally learn?
I learnt you were a fast runner when you were younger. Yep. I don't know about now.
Yep, that's because I was cheeky. I had to run faster than everybody else.
And you were actually a good football player.
So I was.
I wanted to remind you that the geriatrics do play footy, you know. You can play.
I'm not old enough for that, am I?
Well, you broke for Geelong, and I saw Billy Brownless play in one of those games with the older guys. Yeah. And it was quite entertaining. I enjoyed it.
He's pretty close to my age. Well, I'm pretty close to Billy's age anyway.
Yeah, so, I'd like to see that.
Imagine, I know Bill. He's like twice the size of me.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, he's huge.
Yeah.
I've stood next to him many times, and I think I come up to his navel. But even the small ones, they're bigger than me.
Okay.
So I know.
So you would get squashed, is what you're saying?
Oh, look, I know a few of the Geelong footballers, not necessarily the ones now.
Yep.
I do know Jed Bewes because I know his dad. I went to school with his dad, but all of them are big boys.
Yeah, okay.
I'm tiny compared to them anyway. But let's get on to the show. But Janine, before we get into tonight's show, I really wanted to invite our viewers to call into the show. Now, it's telephone into the show, and we'll take 2 lucky callers tonight. Now, one we're going to do in the first half of the show, and we're going to do another one in the second half of the show. So if you'd like to call in and ask Janine and I a question, this is your opportunity to call in the show. So pick up your phone and get dialing. The number you need to call is, wait for it, it's Melbourne 03 9290 9988. That's 9290 9988. Pick up your mobile phone, any phone, bat phone, I don't care what kind of phone it is, just call 9290 9988. First in, best dressed.
All right, moving on. It is the first Tuesday in the month, and this means we take a look at the Australian market. So let's get into the charts. All right.
Okay, on your screen right now is the Australian stock market. It's an All Ordinaries Index. Is it a weekly chart?
It's a monthly chart. I tricked you. I had it on the weekly before we came on air.
You
and
do
I
that
quickly
to
changed
me.
it. I'm too fast, lightning fast.
Wow.
So the reason I changed it to the monthly is so we could still see the bars and see the previous all-time high in the GFC.
Yep.
Gosh, it's a long time ago. And look how long it took. It took more than 10 years to get through the all-time high and get back to where people were around the time of the GFC. So now we've actually gone on from that, which is awesome to see. And the market's pushing up towards that 7,800 point mark, which is fantastic. So it hasn't slowed down as we expected.
Well, yeah, I mean, yesterday, obviously, with the big surprise, which pushed our market up with Afterpay, because it was such a big company, and obviously the bid that pushed it up. And it was interesting because only yesterday morning I said I really would like to see this week have a really strong up bar, because if we don't get a strong up bar this week, then it's likely our market's just going to keep going sideways or down.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see where the market closes by the end of this week. But when you look at it, I mean, in my report yesterday, when you're looking at this whole ordinary all orders index, I was saying in my report that half of the All Ordinaries Index is mining and financials. That's what it is. And then of that, 60% of that figure is financials. And financials are still way off their all-time high, about 15% down on the all-time high from before the GFC. So you understand why our market has only just made a new all-time high, or only recently been making new all-time highs. So what's your take on the market? They hear me every week.
Look, I just suggest that we go to the weekly chart and have a quick look at what we can see there. Now, I mean, the market's been trading sideways more or less since June, and it's just broken out. So often when you get these breakouts like we had before back in April, the market went up for another few weeks and then it's sideways. It's very cautiously rising. It's not getting out of control. It's just nice and steady. And I think we could be up for another couple of weeks at least. So I think it looks good at the moment.
So what's your projection? They know mine. I'm not going to tell you what it is.
Look, I'm going to reserve my projection for next month. That's what I've decided to do.
That's cheating.
I know. It is cheating. Cheeky, isn't it?
So that's like making a prediction in hindsight. Like,
I know.
I told you it was that price.
Well, look, I would actually say that we're going to get close to 8,000, 8,200.
By when?
Look, if
I'm not
the
making
market,
it easy for you.
If the market keeps going up and closes strongly up by the end of this week, then I think it will keep going up over the next couple of months.
Yeah.
If we see a pullback up at the end of next week, then I think that'll be the point the market reverses.
Okay. I'm thinking if it keeps going up, it could get up to 8,600 points.
Woohoo! That's fantastic, isn't it?
But we do need to see it continue on in its bullish run rather than just drop back into these sideways
I like the way
movements.
that it's moving right now.
Yeah, it does look nice, and it is more sustainable and has been more sustainable.
People have been getting fearful about the market, and I say to anyone who's in the lockdown in New South Wales, it's going to affect your psychology that you're in this lockdown. So don't allow that to determine your decision making when it comes to the stock market. Always look at the chart and let that help you decide, not emotion.
Yeah, so I mean, really, really good points. Really, really good points, because a lot of people get home and they go, what am I going to do? And then they get this entrepreneurial spurt and they go, I'm going to trade the stock market, and then they go and take high risk because they really haven't thought about the whole process. And we see that time and time again with the emails that we're getting, and that people don't think about a process.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, that's all from us about the Australian market and wise words from Dale. Now it's time to take our first caller. Welcome to the show. What is your question for us? Hi again. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Oh, I can hear somebody. Fantastic.
Who have we got?
Yeah, this is Jane.
Oh,
I'm
hello,
calling
Jane.
from New South Wales.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much for calling into the show. What's your question tonight? I'm assuming that you've got a burning question for us.
Yes, I do. Thank you so much, and I do appreciate your show. I was wondering whether tonight you can have a look at Core Lithium, and the code is CXO. And I just want to hear your thoughts whether this is something that you'd buy based on the news that it received a grant from the Australian government.
Right. Okay, let's have a look at the charts, shall we? Thank you so much, Jane, for that awesome question.
Stay safe in New South Wales. So Core Lithium, what have we got to talk about at the moment?
Core Lithium?
There it is, it's on your screen. I brought it up there, I'm fast.
Okay, you are indeed. Okay, now it's highly volatile stock. What's interesting about this one is, you know how we were talking about some of these stocks that went up massively, like GameStop, etc., a while ago, and how they could recognise stocks that are likely to take off? This stock has done exactly that. It had formed this sideways move, and this was the point that really the buyers in the know were getting into the stock. And look how it took off after that, and then we've seen a sideways move since. So could this be another launching pad for the stock?
Well, obviously there's a lot of talk around lithium at the moment. We've seen last week we saw Oz Minerals, and what was the other one that took off? They're very, very good stocks last week.
I don't know. You're telling the story. Which one are you talking about?
It's because you're telling me that I got to play in an old farts league of football, and now I'm getting old timers disease and forgetting things.
I know. I was a bit worried about you last week as well.
I know.
I think it's getting a bit late for you.
Lithium is on many people's lips at at the moment because obviously the push towards electric vehicles and all sorts of stuff, battery technology, blah, blah, blah. So obviously there's a lot happening at this point in time.
And the government getting involved and getting behind so many projects now.
Yep, and we're going to be talking a lot about that in our main topic. So right now, this is this stock, it's risen huge. In obviously the last few months it's gone a bit sideways, or last year or so it's probably gone a bit more sideways. Is it likely to continue on, or is it just going to settle into a trend now?
Look, I think there's a bit of short-term resistance here around this current level, around that 30 cent mark, but if it gets strongly above that, there's a potential for it to go back up to the all-time high. It's just like every other stock we look at. It doesn't matter what the news is, whether there's a government support for it or not, the chart's going to tell you whether the money is behind it or not. And with these lower liquidity type shares, if they aren't pushing forward on an announcement really strongly, then it means that there's some other thing going on there that people need to be thinking about a bit more cautiously. So I would actually say wait for confirmation of a strong rise, a further strong rise above this resistance.
Okay.
And Jane, also consider your downside risk. Make sure you look for, where's your stop loss going to be on a stock like this, given how hard it actually moves, because it will move quickly in one way or another.
Okay, and if you want to be a Jane, just call 92909988. A little bit later in the show, we'll be taking another call, so get ready for it. So write down 92909988. It's over to you, Janine.
All right, now it's time to get into our first email for the night.
Now, our first email tonight is from George, who says, "Hi, Dale and Janine and team. My question, what do you think about the medium-term future of PBH? What critical prices should we look for? Can you please also comment on the same regarding Kogan? If it matters, I own both stocks and am 12 to 15% behind as they stand right now." Thanks again, George. We're only going to cover one stock, George. We only do one question a show. So we're going to do PBH because that was the first stock you had there. So your thoughts on PBH?
All right, let's have a look at those charts now. So we've got the monthly chart on the right-hand side. It has. It's fallen out of bed massively. So we've seen this huge drop this week, and it looks like the stock, last week it actually had closed at $11.29. And then we've seen it just drop here this week. And this can happen from time to time with many stocks. So when a stock's falling, what do we say?
Well,
Simple.
I mean, looking at this stock, he should have been out of this weeks and weeks ago, probably. But I'm not sure when he bought it. But right now, he's losing. He would have been stopped out already, wouldn't he?
Oh, I'd say so, after this fall. But I mean, I guess the key is that there were probably lots of probably a trend line exit somewhere in there. There would have been other exits even the simple exits that we teach could potentially get him out. But we need to be able to help him now. So what do we do in terms of assisting him right now?
Well, let me go and look at his email again. So he's got his email. He says did he say his buy price? No, he hasn't given us a buy price. He hasn't told us when he bought them.
Yeah, so it's not easy for us to...
So it's really hard for us to pick.
You give a bit of guidance on that, but given the way the stock's falling...
well,
why would you be in it is the question, isn't it?
Well, yeah, he was 12 to 15% down. He didn't say which stock, and that was over last week. So now it's down another 14 odd percent. So he's probably down 20 to nearly 30, somewhere between 20 and 30%.
Yeah.
So therefore it would have triggered a stop loss anyway. So again, it's really up to you, George, mate. You really do need to put a line in the sand, and obviously 12 to 15%. It's still in the ballpark of holding your stock, because if it had found support last week, it could have be going up this week. And I know Janine and I both have had stocks numerous times that have got near our stop loss and then just turned around and we've made good money on it. So it's not necessarily a time just to get out too early, but based on where you were, I think you should have been out. There's a lot of technical reasons you should have been out of the stock a lot earlier.
It's great that he's emailed into us and just opening up about these sort of things, because, look, you won't be the first and not the last person that's bought into a stock and then it's fallen heavily and you're not sure what to do. This is where the stop losses is really important. So
hopefully Kogan's holding up. I haven't looked at it today. That's good on it.
All right. Our next email is from Peter. Hi, Dale and Janine. I have a holding in Horizon Oil. The company will soon be holding an extraordinary general meeting. The proposal is to offer a share plan capital return to shareholders of 3 cents a share. My question is, why would they do this? Would it be easier for a company to declare a special dividend? Keep up the good work. Regards, Peter. That's an interesting question, isn't it?
Question, yeah.
I mean, it really can depend on why the company is actually, how the company's structured, their capital arrangements. Sometimes it can depend on some of the influences from big investors or big shareholders. So I would actually go and have a look at the information that they've published engaged about this first. You can also contact them. A lot of these companies, they'll have an investor section on their website and a contact phone number. Yeah, and just give them a call and ask the question specifically why that is. I'm sure that in their documentation, when the CEO's made an announcement, he will have made the suggestion as to why they're doing it. So
they generally do in their announcements anyway. But I mean, a 3 cent capital return just basically means it reduces your buy price by 3 cents. That's really what they're saying, rather than doing it. And yeah, they could do a special dividend, but then that would have to then, is that they're going to put the franking credits on it, or they're not going to put the franking credits on it? But it's all part of good capital management. And I know we talked about that weeks ago, didn't we?
We did, yeah.
Good capital management, and we expected more things like special dividends, buybacks happening, those sorts of things. A lot of companies held cash because of what was going on with COVID. So there's a lot of companies sitting on cash. So expect more of these to happen. But moving on, we do have another question, and this one is from Joe, who says, "Hey guys, could you explain about the possible merger of Galaxy? If shareholders are going to get 5.5 of a share of OCR for each Galaxy share held, how will this affect the share price of Galaxy? I'll assume something will have to give, and that will be a drop in Galaxy's share price and OCR. True or false? Wondering if I should hold Galaxy as I recently purchased them. Regards, Joe."
That's a good question.
Another good question.
So what are your thoughts on the general, like the broader view of what she's asking?
Well, you really need to look at in terms of whether you want to have, you're going to get half a share in the other company. It's about whether you want to own that other company or not. If you don't want to own the other company, then just sell your Galaxy shares. That's pretty much what you know. It's been a bullish stock. You're looking at it. You bought it. You probably made some money out of it. So it could be an okay decision to get out of it. If you do like the other share, OCR, then I would be hanging on to it. But don't necessarily think it's going to be a negative effect. I mean, what your statement was, you're expecting a negative effect on both shares. Not necessarily the case. This could be really good for both of them. I haven't read the offer document, and I don't think you have you? Because we don't own Galaxy for ourselves or for our investors. So therefore, we wouldn't have looked at that. But you just need to look at that and work out why they're merging and what's happening and whether that's good.
Let's come down to the chart and have a look at, the purchase of the shares. So Joe's saying she recently purchased it, and we're looking at the fact that it's gone through its prior all-time highs, and it has these massive rises, and then it just, it's huge volatile swings in the share price. You can see all the way down into this low in 2013, and then all the way up into this high here in 2018, and then again another major fall into the low in 2020, and we see a big rise has happened again. Now, from a pattern perspective, if you've studied our courses, this could be a long-term bull run. It could go for much longer. We don't know that. But in the short term, it might find resistance at around the $5 mark, because this could be an important level for the stock. But it's really about not just, I would say, when you're making a decision about a stock, it's great that you're factoring in what's happening from a corporate perspective or a capital perspective. I would actually be sticking with it if it was my share until it told me to sell it on the chart.
Well, obviously 0.5 of a share in OCR has value in that. So therefore they've actually valued Galaxy effectively at share price of what they're prepared to pay for it.
But I'm just looking purely at the chart now.
Purely at this, I keep holding it, no problems at all.
It looks like a bull at the moment, and it's got the potential to go towards $5.
Well, what if you didn't like OCR as a stock? What would you do?
Look, often if you get extra shares in other companies, it's just about saying, well, okay, why not sell it if you get it? As simple as that. Or you could look at OCR separately and then decide, well, do we top it up? If that's the plan, I haven't read the details of what they're being offered.
Cool, fantastic.
Okay, our next email is from Lucia. Dear Dale and Janine, I watch your show every week. Thanks for answering my question last week. I appreciate it. Recently, China lifted export tax on iron ore steel, so the share price of GRR, FEX falling, I'm not sure what that one was, but is it a buying opportunity or sell side? Many thanks, Lucia. Now, if we look at GRR...
Grange Resources.
Grange Resources looks incredible from a long-term perspective, but it could be at a short-term resistance level right now. And $1, when a stock trades around $1, often this can be a major hurdle for the shares to get over from a psychological perspective in the marketplace. So it's reversed around 91 cents or close to that, where it's peaked just recently. You can see there on the right-hand side of the chart. It could go further. We don't know yet. So it's a matter of waiting to see whether the stock can get above this week's high. If in the next couple of weeks it does that, then it could continue to go up.
But the announcement, is that a buy signal or a sell signal? Or neither?
An announcement is not anything.
It's not anything.
No,
Yeah.
at all. No.
Yeah,
That's my simple.
and that's where you've got to separate it, Lucia. I've got problems with my mouth tonight, haven't I, Lucia? But it's not a signal for anything. You really do need to look at the chart and actually decide what the market's deciding, is it good or bad. And right now, I would be buying Grange Resources, and I'm sure you wouldn't be, but I certainly wouldn't be selling it at the moment. I'd be watching it in case I needed to sell it, but it wouldn't be a buy.
Yeah, now the challenge with this is that you won't, unlikely to get a trend line rule on it to sell it. It'd be another rule that you'd have to be working off to be able to sell it for the downside. And these stocks can be quite volatile, so it could slip quickly to the downside. So it's about watching it, but not having it too tight so that it can unfold. So I really like the stock, looking at it long term.
Yep. Okay, well, there you go. So Janine really likes the stock, Lucia.
Just
I
move
think
on.
I need something
Sorry,
I hand
I'm
up my
gonna
back and to
apologise
work my
for it
mouth. Something like
to you.
I need to become a ventriloquist dummy or something like that. Okay. Before we get into our topic for tonight, later on in the show, again, we'll have an opportunity for one more very lucky viewer who will be given the chance to ask Janine and I a question about a stock live on the show. So stay tuned for this opportunity. And remember, get ready to dial 03, which is Melbourne, 9290 9988. So that's 9290 9988. When we tell you to call in towards the end of the show. Now, okay, it's time to get into tonight's topic, which is top 3 renewable energy stocks to buy in 2021.
Now, as the world moves away from dependence on fossil fuels to renewable energy, significant capital is being pumped into the development of renewable energy technologies by governments and industry to reduce emissions. Investors want to know how to profit by investing in renewable stocks. So tonight we intend on supporting your desire to learn more about this area by discussing some of the benefits and risks when investing in renewable energy stocks. We'll also share with you a few top ASX renewable energy companies that could be the next opportunities in this space.
Now, Janine, it was interesting how many leading ASX companies are moving to reduce their energy footprint, including some of the large mining companies. Now, big Aussie miners have or are already moving away from coal. Now, there's also talk in the industry that gas could become the next coal. So this is a space that we all have to watch into the future. Now, another fun fact, I'm not sure you don't know this one, Clean Energy Australia reported that last year around 27% of electricity in Australia was generated by alternatives to fossil fuels. And there are all sorts of technologies right now being developed to support solar and other alternatives.
Well, you are full of fun facts.
I'm full of it.
Shortly we'll move on and take a look at a couple of websites. One is Clean Energy Council Australia and another the government website ARENA, which is the Australian Renewable Energy Agency, whose mission is to improve the competitiveness of renewable energy technologies and increase the supply of renewable energy innovation to benefit Australians. Now, they provide funding for all sorts of projects, and it's really awesome to see on their website. Even big companies like Rio has been listed there. So let's bring up the PC now so we can have a look.
Okay, so on the screen is, what is this? It's an Australian government website, yeah?
Yep, Australian Renewable Energy Agency. Now, this can be really good for parents to get their kids involved and do a little bit of research as well, for anyone really, just to understand the sorts of technologies and the energy. And this is what the Australian government are getting behind. So you can see on the left-hand side that they're involved with the battery storage.
Yep.
Bioenergy and energy from waste, which is such an interesting topic. I saw, was watching Netflix and the show on Netflix about all the different energy sources and projects that are going on around the world.
They get energy from your toilet. They do. I was seeing that the other day.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, I know you're excited about that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Cooking your food on stuff the gas that comes from your toilet. Big battery down in Geelong caught on fire on the weekend.
Really?
Yeah, they tested it. Like there was a big big Tesla battery thing. There's like multiple ones in a row, just on near Avalon, I think it is. And they turned it on to test it, and one of them started a fire.
That's not a good PR campaign.
It's not a good PR. I'll let you get going.
Concentrated solar thermal.
Yep.
Demand response. I'm not sure what that one is, but distributed energy sources, things like electric vehicles, they're behind. Geothermal. I know you're interested in hydrogen energy and hydropower,
Absolutely,
which is interesting. Yes. Hybrid technologies, large-scale solar, ocean energy.
That's exciting too. We've got plenty of oceans.
Yeah, I saw these big machines that they put in the ocean and can capture the energy from the waves. It's just amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing all the different things, like even roads, with cars driving across them, they can create energy by the movement in the road. There's just so many different things that I've looked at lately. But
now there's things like renewables for industry. Now a lot of industry leaders, like the big companies you mentioned, BHP, Rio, so many of the big miners are getting involved in this renewable space now and have big projects underway. Renewables in buildings and solar energy just in homes, so we've seen companies like, is it Origin Energy that are behind, and AGL, I think, were behind these big programs to roll out the retail.
I know Coles and I think it's Woolworths are all planning to have all of their supermarkets on renewable energy within a few years. There's
it's fantastic, isn't it?
Companies with big roofs on their manufacturing and putting solar on them, or just a name of stuff. So if I click on any one of these, what happens?
And wind energy, I thought you'd like that one.
I've got a lot of wind.
Okay, so we often see these big wind farms around, and there's a lot of controversy about those as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. I saw when you go towards Warrnambool, you'll see a lot of windmills, that sort of stuff.
Look, I mean, the biggest energy provider, as far as renewable energy provider towards our electricity, is wind.
There's a big one in Dalesford. Have you seen the big one in Dalesford? That big thing? There's a big one in Dalesford. And I don't know the exact statistic, but I think it provides a lot of energy for the town.
Awesome.
But yeah, there's a big one in Dalesford. So let's move on, otherwise we'll run out of time on looking at stocks.
And then we've got the clean energy report. So this is interesting for 2020 to see that the annual electricity generation out of renewables was up around 27%. Just if you could bring that down.
I'm going to zoom in so they can see it a little bit better.
Can't they see that? Is that too small?
There you go.
Okay, that's fantastic. So just scrolling down, you can see coal is still 62%. I'm surprised about that. Renewables are up around that 27% now. Gas is only about 10%. And then there's the smaller entries below that, which are not worth anything. Wind. So we're looking at the technology type involved of the renewables that make up that 27%. 36% comes from wind, 23% comes from that small-scale solar, and then hydro's around 23%. I was surprised about the hydro.
I thought that would be more.
Yeah, large-scale solar 11%, and the bio. So large-scale solar. I mean, why aren't more of the big companies getting behind that? I don't get that. Medium-scale solar is only 1.4%.
Not very much.
So the small-scale solar, though, the plans with the retail people putting solar on their homes is actually quite powerful, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I'm going to do that. I'm building my new home. I'm going to be having solar all over the place, and everything's going to be environmentally friendly type stuff as much as I can, because you'd yell at me if I didn't do it.
Right.
No.
Okay.
So what are we doing now?
The Australian government's actually investing in a lot of these areas. So that's what's really exciting about what's going on here. So now we need to go over and have a look at a few stocks. I think everybody's wanting to. And I thought tonight that we would perhaps look at some of the smaller companies, even though we could look at stocks and what BHP and Rio are doing. They get all the headlines. So they're often in the news. And I know that we talk to you about not necessarily investing in the smaller end of the market, but it's important to know some of these upcoming companies. And I'm really hoping that they get some weight behind them and they grow rather than being swallowed up, because we see this area, we were talking about takeovers.
Well, we were last week. Yes.
And we see this area as being a really positive area for potential takeovers in Australia. So there could be really good investments in there.
Australian companies take them over, because that's what surprised me. Well, it did surprise me yesterday after pay. I didn't think they'd be a takeover target by an Australian company because of their price. but I never considered Square in the US or a big US company taking them over, which I think...
There are already so many
I
competitors.
think it's a great deal for
over there.
Afterpay. I think it's fantastic, and the founders are going to reap the benefits from that. They're going to get a lot of money
It's
from
really
it.
sad.
But it's sad for Australia because what a lot of people don't.
But we're not here to talk about Afterpay.
I know, but it's all the money going offshore.
Can we move on now?
Yeah, we can move on now if you
Awesome.
like. Yes, boss. Oh, shut up. She's telling me to shut up, everybody.
Okay, so what I decided to do is bring up a few stocks that are just a bit out of the park. Maybe you haven't heard of these before, but some to keep an eye on just to see how they develop over time. So this one is called Leaf Resources, and it is quite a small stock. You can see how illiquid it is on the left-hand side, but that is changing. Look at the volume that's coming.
And we've looked at this before, haven't we?
Yeah, at some stage we did. The volume is starting to come into it. I think it'll be a long way off before people would invest in it because it needs much more backing behind it. But it's harnessing renewable geothermal energy to drive lithium production for electric vehicles. So this is really a huge space and a great area for this company to be involved in. So in the short term, I think we can see weakness there. There's a bit of a sell-off going on the chart. But once this stock turns around and gets going again, there is significant potential. I'll just unlock this left-hand side so you can see. I can see a huge resistance level around this 2.25 cent mark.
Yep.
So I think that over time it's going to drift up towards that area once it actually heads back above 12 cents. So that's what I'm looking at.
No, I like it. And as you said, it is getting more volumes coming into it. It's coming back a little bit at the moment, so there could be opportunities. But it's not really a short-term play, is it?
It's not a short-term play, but then on the other side to it, you've still got to treat this like it's... You can't just sort of think, I really want to get behind this area of the market and put all your investing dollars in it, hoping that you're going to make a lot of money out of something you're passionate about. If your goal is to make money, then you wouldn't be putting a lot of money into these types of shares just at this stage, unfortunately. You might... I know someone recently who told me that they have to put some money into some of these just because they believe in it so much.
And that's part of it, isn't it? If if you're somebody who wants to be environmentally or ethical or whatever else, you should be putting money into some of this to say you support that.
But is that to make a profit, though?
But no, it's not necessarily. It's a different reason. It's a values-based thing. So going into renewable energies and investing in that's great. But don't make that the main source of your portfolio or hope for your portfolio.
But eventually, I think in Australia we have the potential that this could become as big in our marketplace as any of the other sectors in our marketplace. And eventually, I'm hoping that we will have a whole sector.
Yeah, and this whole sector is going to be a whole sector that's going to grow strongly, and I think we've got a huge potential across Australia. But it's also going to be a sector to watch into the future for takeovers.
That's right.
So that's what makes it just as exciting.
So let's have a look at this next one. So this is Mercury New Zealand Limited. Now they generate electricity from 100% renewables, and they sell the electricity. This is going extremely well.
That is excellent.
It looks amazing. The stock's done so well. So I would just say, look, in the short term, we need to see it get above this high here in May 2021. But if it manages to do that, I think it's more likely to take out that all-time high and keep going. If it falls below this low here in July, I'll just open up the chart a bit so we can see.
It's not hugely liquid, but it's not super illiquid. But
there's a risk increases significantly if it goes below that 16 July 2021. So if I just put my crosshair on and we just have a look at the volume a little bit across here, this is what you've got to be aware of. So what have we got there, Dale?
That says... Stop moving it. 70-odd thousand.
70-odd thousand is 80,000, and then you multiply that by the share price. So, it's a smaller stock we're talking about. Yeah, still. So then we go to Genex Power Limited. They're clean energy generation, electricity storage solutions. They're into solar, hydro and wind, which I think is really exciting. Still, you can see the liquidity on the weekly chart is really quite patchy. And what's the figure down the bottom?
That's about 3.4 million at around 20 cents.
Yeah, so it's still a small company we're talking about here. Now, if this stock breaks out above this level at around 25 cents, I think that's going to be a really good move for the stock. It will be exciting to see what it does from there. And there's a long way to that all-time high, which is nice. So that's an interesting one. We've got Meridian Energy.
I thought you said 3. You
No. New
said
Zealand,
3 stocks to buy right now.
let's keep going.
Okay.
New Zealand power company that generates electricity through 100% renewable resources. How exciting is that? All of these great companies out there doing something
Wow.
fantastic. So you can see at the moment it's just doing nothing. It's going sideways. I'd like to see it get above this level here at above around 540 to be really confident that it's going up. But if you get a strong close at the end of any week above around that prior peak there, close to that 510 mark, then it could make the move to that next level at least. So I think that looks good. But just remember, to those people who have bought stocks, catch a falling knife, don't try and get these stocks cheaper. If they're falling away, they could be sold off really fast, so don't do that. So the low here, 25th of June, if this stock takes out that low, there could be further downside. So just bear that in mind. Next one we've got on the list is SP3. This is another one that's a bit illiquid as well, you can see. But if you get a breakout from this sideways range, that could be really nice little share. Provides solar and battery-powered platforms that connect wirelessly to the internet.
Wow.
There's so many technologies in this sort of renewables, clean energy space, not just the ones that support the renewable energy producers and also support the technologies and people wanting to get into solar, which is awesome. So Origin Energy is obviously a big company, and this is one of the big stocks. They sell energy and they have renewable energy options for households. So this is retail side of things. But they're also into gas exploration and production, which may not tick the boxes for people who are looking for pure renewable energy companies. But Origin's looking quite good at the moment. It's consolidating sideways, but there is definitely a risk if it takes out this low on the bottom there, and I'll just get rid of that.
Do you think Origin
then it could be a real
eventually
concern.
be one of the companies that would take over some of these companies?
Look, I think it's not a question of do I think they will, it's more should they?
Should they?
And I think they should. If they really want to move forward.
The next part of my question is if they're an energy reseller, should they get into energy production as well as the reselling?
I'm not sure. Look, I'm not necessarily sure about energy production, but should they invest in the companies that actually are involved in this? Yeah, I think they should. And that's an area that, we'll have a look at. We'll keep watching Origin as we go along. There's one more I wanted to have a look at, and this is beta shares. We often talk about beta shares ETFs.
It's an ETF, yeah.
Right, so Earth, I like it. Yeah. What a name. So Earth is it hasn't been out in the marketplace, it looks like, for very long. We can see there's not much data.
Yeah, it's only March this year.
And that makes it hard for us to judge. So if I was looking for an ETF, I'd want to actually go down and be able to see what are the stocks that they're holding and what's their weightings, for example, and which are the bigger ones that are having an influence on the chart.
When we've talked about this in the past about ETS, if you don't really know a sector because it's specialised, and renewables is a specialised sector, like robotics, that sort of stuff. So you think this would be a great place if you wanted to get into this area.
Look, some of the ETFs are not satisfying or ticking the boxes of the people that are looking for these renewable energy companies. So you just really have to have a good look. If you're looking at ETFs in this space, you'd need to really do your research to make sure that they're meeting your criteria. So that's where the individual companies can be really good because you know what you're investing in exactly. But I really like the fact that they're doing this. They're really they get into everything, beta shares. So do some research and have a look at what they've got to offer.
Okay, so now we need to move on, don't we?
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. What would you like to talk about now? We're going to get into another caller?
I'm not sure. I mean, from that point of view, but right, we finished everything from here?
Well, look, that was it. We've done the roundup of the clean energy side of things, the renewable energies, and looked at a few stocks. So yeah, definitely.
Okay, fantastic. Well, I think we need to get back into some emails, I think, and I'll just read my next email. Where is it? I'll get it here. Where is it?
Oh, you've spent so much time highlighting your sheet.
I've highlighted everything
and now it's let you down, hasn't it?
It does have let me down.
What can I say? All right, would you like me to read it for you?
You can read the next one. How's that?
We've got a question from Craig. Hi, Dale and Janine. I'd love to hear your views on Coles. I'm looking to trade the stock for around 2 years due to potentially moving overseas. Is now a good time to buy, or should I wait for it to pull back slightly as it's been rising for 5 months straight? Thanks for your great show, Craig. All right, so we've got Craig there. Have you gone to sleep there? Are you with me?
Oh, look, I'm here. I'm just trying to figure out where Craig is on my sheets. I think I've missed him.
Okay, well, there we go. He's on my sheet, so I've got him there. And I need to bring up a stock. So can you type that in for me, please?
Which one is it?
COL.
COL. Didn't you put it in there earlier?
Oh, it's disappeared. So I'm looking at coal, and we can see how it's coming up to that nice little resistance level, but we're still a fair way away from the top here. Now, he's concerned because it's gone up for 5 months, but, if you look at the history of this share and where it's gone after it was demerged and then fell away, in February 2019 it made this low. So the important message here is really look at what the stock's done in the past to get an idea for what it might do in the future. Now, coal went up from that 2019 low all the way until the peak prior to COVID. So that's a year, pretty much. And we've then seen the stock fall away into this low in March 2021. So working on simple theories, this stock could be rising for many more months, and there's a potential for it to take out this high given it's staying strong. And I guess this is the real challenge for investors, isn't it? If a stock's been rising for a while, the temptation is to just take the money and run, isn't it?
Oh, it is. It is quite tempting because people fear losing their profit.
Yeah.
Because they don't understand where they should be managing their exit to it. So they just jump out and then they go, oh, I should have stayed in because it kept going up. And I don't know how many times I hear that.
But anyone can change their mind from 1 week to the next about the performance of a share, because you could look at it this week and then it falls next week.
But I think, coal,
and then it goes up 3 or 4 weeks later.
It's a nice stock. I think, you can't sort of go too wrong with this over long term, can you?
Yeah, I think it's a good share over the long term. Yeah,
Okay.
so we like coal.
All right. Now, before we get into our next email, if you have your phone ready and have been patiently waiting for the opportunity to call into the show to have your question answered live, now's the time to get dialing. The number you need to call, remember, it is 03 for Melbourne, 92909988. That's 92909988. Remember, it's first in, best dress. So dial 92909988. Now, while you call into us, we'll get into answering our next email. And our next email
is from, is it George, is it?
It's from George. The next email is, it's actually another George from the other George. There's two Georges. And George asks, hi, Dale and Janine, usual CGF popped into my radar due to the volumes on a shorter trading plan. But looking at the monthly chart, a big picture, as per Janine's wise words, the downtrend is still evident. $6.23 is one rule on it as confirmation. Then watch for $7.37 resistance. $3 appears to be the downside for further scrutiny. Much appreciated for your opinion on it as a nice upside for the future. Maybe thanks, George. A lot of price analysis he's put on
He's
it,
put
hasn't
a lot, hasn't he?
Yeah,
Look,
you asked that question way out of order. You asked a question from later on.
Well, I didn't expect you to highlight it. I was trying to save you because you fell into
it. We're
it.
fine. We're flexible. We're flexible. So let's get into George.
All right.
Okay.
$7.37, okay, which is this high here. Okay, it's around that high. And he's expecting some resistance around there. And I would absolutely agree there could be some resistance up around these sorts of levels. But at the moment, the stock's trading sideways. There's no, it's been rising for a number of months, but there's no direction at this point. So the risk is to the downside if it falls away below this low. Now, I need to expand up that chart. So you can see here that if the stock takes out this low here in July, week ending 2nd of July, then it's a real concern because it could be continuing to fall away. But if we get a move back above about $5.80, then we could see Challenger head back up and trade to at least $6.80 and then possibly go on from there. So it's looking okay at the moment, but still hasn't confirmed. Okay, still hasn't confirmed, okay. But obviously he's got $3. Do you think it'll go to $3 as a possible downside if it falls away? So I don't even think about that at this point in time because I'd be just looking at the most significant low prior to where the current price action is first. So you can see here at 477, that low there, that's the next point. If it goes below there, then it's not even, who cares where it goes? It's gone. It's off the radar because it's trending down. Well, that's the point, isn't it? If you're in it, because George doesn't say he's in it or not, does he? Well, but because he doesn't saying I do own it or I don't own it, he's just giving you some price analysis. He's talking about nice upside for the future, but then he's thinking about the downside, which is great that he's thinking about both sides. Yeah, he needs to. But then once it goes below a certain low, you basically wipe the stock off. If we're looking at stocks for clients and then we have them on our watch list and then it trades below a particular level, once it goes below that low, it basically gets off the short-term radar and moved on to the more medium-term radar. Yeah, because right now this could be just a move in the opposite direction to a trend. Could be.
The downtrend could continue.
It
That's
still
really
looks
what he's
okay,
saying.
really, but I just think that it's got to prove itself right now.
Okay, so what does it have to do to prove itself?
Well, I just told you before.
Oh, tell me again. I forgot.
All right.
Remember, I'm getting old.
It needs to get above about 580, and then it's more likely to head up about this level around 680. And then once it gets to there, it's got the potential to trade above all of that resistance
All right,
that he talked about.
You can ask the next question then. Okay, I'll shut up.
Okay, now we have a question from Andrew. Hi Dale and Janine, I appreciate the effort that you both put into the show. You always come up with gems of advice. It seems learning about stocks and life in general is a lifelong thing. Yes, given your advice to only invest in stocks in a confirmed uptrend, why would anyone not have mineral resources, MIN, in their portfolio? Is it because it's in danger of being overextended? Thanks, Andrew. So is MIN there? Yes, there it is.
There it is, right at the other end.
You've got to search.
I have to search for this. You've got me confused
Stop complaining.
tonight.
Let's keep going. All right. So look at the trend. It is in a long uptrend. Now, what he's saying is, why would everyone not be in this right now? Well, I mean, okay, smarty. Yeah, you're right. It would be great if everybody was in it, wouldn't it? But the reality is, you wouldn't be jumping into it right now.
No, I wouldn't. But I mean, but it's also about they were saying that. You only tell people to buy when it's in an uptrend. But that's not correct.
Not correct, no.
Because what is an uptrend? Is it short, medium, or long term?
That could be part of a set of rules that we have to confirm whether we're buying or not. But we're trying to get a stock when it's in the early stages, ideally before it's confirmed that uptrend, if you can buy it there. But you have to have rules that indicate that it's more likely to continue up into a confirmed uptrend. So that's the difference. There's a really fine line there.
There is. I mean, if you wait for a long-term trend to confirm, you'll miss a lot of trade. But if you jump in on a short-term trend and you're trading medium term, you could be getting in too early.
And rules that have proven themselves, you increase your chances of success, and that's the point I think I want to really make to you.
So I agree with you. MIN looks good. It looks awesome at the moment.
It does
if
look
you own
great.
it, stay in it.
How
Anything
exciting.
else you want to
Good
say?
on you. No, great.
All right, well, we're going to go to a caller now. We have a caller, May, who's from Melbourne. Hi, May, how are you? And you've got a question on Woodside for us?
Yes, that's right. Thank you very much for the show. I was wondering whether Woodside would ever get back to the $30, given the trend towards renewable energy.
Okay, so whether Woodside will get up to $30 considering the renewable energy. It's a really good question.
It's a great question. Perfect for
Thank you, May. Let's go and have a look at the chart right now.
Okay, Woodside looks interesting. However, at the moment, it's really holding to the downside. And we've seen this with a few energy stocks recently that have been pushing to those downsides. But for Woodside to get going, we really need to see it get back above this high here around that $24 mark.
Yep.
And once it does that, then we know that it's more likely to go to $30. So I think your level is really good. It's important because I think that could be an important level for Woodside going forward. But at the moment, there's more risk to the downside right now. And if it keeps falling, why would you be holding it? That's the question.
Good question. Woodside Petroleum, it's not in a renewable energy. So how will companies like this transition over the next
you've given me a loaded question.
I have. I'm good like that.
Well, they either have to buy the technology or they have to buy the companies that have it.
Yeah. Yeah, because obviously, in this area, then they're in an area that's getting increasingly smelly on the nose, evidently.
Oh, okay. That's a real technical term we've got there.
Do you want me to move on?
Yes, please.
Okay. Well, thank you, May, for that question, and thank you for calling into the show. Our next question is from Jazz, and Jazz says, "Hi, Dale and Janine. First of all, I'd like to thank you guys for doing such a great education show every week. That's our pleasure, mate. Let me say that you guys are awesome with immense knowledge and experience." He must be talking about you, Janine, in helping us get a solid basic of stock market. Can you please have a look at a stock, Jumbo Interactive, as I purchased this stock at $16.55 and I'm planning to hold for the medium term. Apparently it is trending up nicely, but just looking at your thoughts on it with upside potential and associated risk. Many thanks. Regards, Jazz.
Now, this is one you'd be excited about because I know a long time ago, before it had that massive rise, you were really excited about it then.
I was.
But it's been a bit more choppy.
It has.
No, it's not trending beautifully of late, but it has broken out of these highs, which is a really positive sign. So But what's this sideways move? Someone's playing with this.
It is. And there,
What's going on?
I was looking at trading that probably if I put my pointer in it. I was looking at trading it somewhere. Yeah, where's my pointer gone? Somewhere in around here. Sort of earlier this year, I thought I might break in when it breaks out through a pattern that I had. I thought, oh, let's get into it. But I wasn't happy, and I just stayed out of it. Now I'd be in the money right now, but then it's going sideways right now. So.
Yeah, and it looks weird, you know, the fact that it's done that. Like some of the patterns that are sideways, you can think, okay, that's normal fluctuations, but this is not.
This is not.
So I'd be watching this closely.
Yeah, and I'm not saying it's not going to go up and it's not going to have good upside potential, because I still do like this stock. I think it is one of the stocks that I look at regularly.
Yep.
But I found that there were better options for me to put my money into. That was me.
I still think there's a potential for it to go to between $20 and $22 in the short term if it rises over the next couple of weeks, but it needs to do that really strongly in the next couple of weeks. A move to the downside below this low on the 9th of July, if it closes strongly on any week, could be a real concern short term. So it's important to have stop losses like you do with any share. Yeah. And, you know, if you have to get out of it and then you have to get back in again, that could be safer, especially when the volatility is a bit higher.
Yeah, well, he's only just recently bought it, hasn't he? That's what he said. I purchased his stock at $16.55, so he's just probably purchased somewhere in here, and I think he's either purchased somewhere from here in June right through. But I'm not sure I agree with his purchase price, but hey, look, mate, just have a stop loss on it, because that's what they're there for, is to protect your capital if it does fall away. If it goes up, just put a trailing stop loss on it. That's really all I can suggest you do. So,
all right, we've got a question from Warnsey again. The next question we have is about, hi Janine and Dale, and I hope you're all doing well and keeping safe. It's been a while, but I promise that I've been watching every Tuesday night. I was wondering your thoughts on BSL for a shorter term trade. I'm thinking it may hit some resistance around $26, $27 and that there is still some good upside to this level. Thanks heaps, Warnsey. All right.
Welcome back, Warnsey.
Okay, so $26, $27 I've got marked there on the chart. It does have the potential to go to that level. It could stop close to where it is at the moment as well, and that's a short-term risk for the share right now, depending on this overall pattern and how it might unfold over the short to medium term. So in essence, you may very well be right, but if it trades back below this sideways move, particularly the low of a couple of weeks ago, which is this bar here, 23rd of July 2021, I'd be really concerned about it pulling back further if it goes below that low. But while it's above it,
it's implying that, I read in the text he didn't say that he owned it, but you know, why would you be asking what the potential upside is if you didn't own it right now?
Well, he might be thinking it's a trade and looking for a short-term trade, and it'd be a bit too tight, I reckon, potentially.
Well, I think it's a bit too tight. If you haven't bought into it already, I think it's a really tight trade, and that's what I was asking your opinion on that.
Yeah, because if we just have a quick look, if we just go to the daily chart, right now it's pulling back into this move here, and it may come up, fill that little gap on the daily when it's finished doing this, and then take off, and that could be a really short move to that level.
And I'd like to understand why he's thinking of a short-term trade too, because this is not sort of a stock I'd want to do a short-term trade on. I'd probably be more. Well, I'd rather do a more medium-term trade on this stock, because it can do quite well.
Yeah, it depends where it is in its overall pattern, though.
Correct.
If it's at the end of its run, potentially, then you would do a short term.
Possibly, but then you're saying it's pretty squashy. There's not a lot of upside potential.
You're coming out with some awesome terms today.
I am. I've come up with a whole lot of stuff.
Yep.
Okay, I'll shut up again.
I'm going to remind you of that. Next is an email from Julia who asks, hello Dale and Janine, thanks so much for answering all my questions. My questions are never ending. I bought Costa CGC at $3.67. Keep those questions coming through. And really had no idea what I was doing. Unfortunately, I didn't sell it before it fell heavily, and now I'm so unsure of when or how to sell it. Is there any chance of this stock showing some strength in the near future? Any suggestions would be much appreciated. Thanks, Julia. So look, it's really disappointing, isn't it? But you know, Costa may come back. I'm not saying it will, but she bought at 367. The important thing is to have a stop loss in place. That's what we're going to say, and you probably already know that we're going to say that. If this share starts to head back up above this high of 338, that would be its saving grace. To get above that level, it may then just drift back up to where you bought it, but it really needs to do that reasonably quickly, because any sort of move back below this sideways consolidation through here around in August, and is really huge risk for it then on the downside. So
Can I add something? I know we get questions of people saying, they're more worried about getting hit for a stock doing this sort of thing, falling out of bed on them.
Yep.
And people ask about that all the time, but they never think about the opposite where a stock just flies up like we saw Afterpay do.
I think they do think about that.
They do, but they're more worried about this. And if we just whack just a basic sort of simple trend line on this, you would have been out of it before the fall.
In the book, yeah.
Yeah, if you just use what rules
Well, that's
in my
not
book.
even exactly.
And our students would have been out even tighter than that.
On a more, yeah.
Yeah. So just by using some really simple basic rules, you quite often, and this is not unusual to see that sort of happen, where we get a rule to exit and then 1 or 5 weeks later it falls out of bed, or a stock falls out of bed for whatever reason. But that's what I was saying the other week is I have more stocks jumping on me rather than falling out of bed on me. So don't be worried about them. Have some really, really good rules. And you don't want me to add any more? Do you want me to come up with another funny saying or something? Oh, no, you're laughing at me tonight. I'm not sure why. Guys, come and support me, please. Next up, we have an email from Linda. And Lynn says, "Hi, Dale and Janine. I wanted to get your opinion on PRU."
Did you say Linda or Lynn?
Lynn. Well, her name's Linda, but she likes to be called Lynn.
Okay.
So stop me while I'm reading. Don't do that. Just interrupt. Yeah, she wants to do PRU, which I've been watching for a while. I've been waiting to see if it will fall to repeat the pattern between November 2005 and November 2008 before rising significantly again. Do you think there's enough confirmation to purchase when I get the next entry signal, or do I need to wait for further confirmation? Thanks, Lynn. Her name's Lynn, okay?
That's great. So was she asking whether the pattern here would repeat from 2018 and 19, that rise up? Is that what she was talking about?
Well, yeah, between those two dates. She's just wondering if it's going to do that again.
I mean, we have seen it consolidate sideways, which is interesting. She's probably observed that, and then the trend takes off and it's taken out this prior high. This stock is really nice. It looks really good from a long-term perspective. The challenge for it right now is it's at heavy resistance.
Yes.
So we don't know whether it's going to pull back in the short term until we can see that the close so far for the week is actually down. It's closing low. And if it closes back above this high here, then you'd have to assume that it's going to keep going up because it does look quite strong. So I like it. It looks good, but it could be down for a week or two. That's the risk at the moment.
It could be down for a week or two, but again, as you said, it could be because that huge big run that it had, and it's when you're looking at a mining company, it is more cyclical in nature, so they're bound to repeat the patterns of the past when things are happening.
Yep.
So
I think it's got the potential to go for between $2 and $2.20 over time. It's just a question of whether it's going to pull back now. So we need to let the chart tell us that and have a good set of rules in place, and don't sort of think, even if it pulls back too far and it goes below your stop loss, I might just hold it a bit more. Just think to yourself, well, you just, be very cautious with it.
So this one's not as squishy as the other one, is that what you're saying?
No, but I mean, it doesn't have to fall far. Let's just have a quick look before we go. So if we go from this high here, that's 20%, 3% to this low here. Is the last low. So we're really waiting for that higher low to form on the chart so that we can trail it up a bit on a decent level. So we'll see what happens with the stock over the coming weeks.
Okay, that's enough on Perseus Mining.
Next is an email from Jim. Hi, Dale and Janine. Could you please have a look at Bravura Solutions?
Bravura.
I added my slang to that. Looks to have broken a downtrend line, moved up, retraced, and found some support around the 330 mark. Moving back up again, looks to be a solid buying opportunity. Thanks, Jim. All right, I think he's got a point. It does look interesting right now, and so far for the week it's closing up. But what if it closes low at the end of the week?
Well, it won't.
Because Jim said so, because he said it looks strong.
No, I like this at the moment. It is showing a lot of potential. Because it's not unusual for a stock to sort of break above resistance and then come back and touch on it again and then start to take off again. So it's looking good at the moment.
Okay, but in saying that, considering the downside, what would it have to do for you to be concerned about it?
Look, I think it'd need to get through past that previous high over there before I get too excited about it, because there's a ton of upside there.
So you're thinking right now of the opportunity. What's the downside risk?
What's the downside risk? You yell at me.
Okay, so if the stock falls away and it comes back below this July low, we know that it's more likely to keep falling, even if it goes below the lower.
But you asked me what I think it was going to go up.
I didn't look about the upside. I was talking about the downside.
Okay, fine then.
So if it trades below this low this week, 338, then there is a risk to the downside. It may eventually take out that low. So,
What if it keeps going up this week?
well, that's great. I'm glad that you've already told them what you think the upside is. I agree
There
with
you
you.
go. I like it, Jim. Don't you
Yeah.
worry about it. Don't listen to Janine. I like it. Okay. All right. That's our thoughts on bravura. I can say that properly.
All right. I wanted to let everyone know that it is our intention to take a few callers live on the show each and every week. And that said, the best way to ensure that you get your question answered is still to send in an email. So if you've been sitting there watching the show and thinking, I should ask Janine and Dale a question, my advice to you is don't think about it. Just email your question right now.
Now, Janine and I are more than happy to answer your questions, as we know you'll learn more if you participate in the show, as will so many others who watch the show. So do something for yourself that will help you to get a better design or design a better future for yourself. Now remember to subscribe to our channel first, that's the most important thing, and then send in an email so Janine and I can help you. Now I strongly suggest you send your email in right now to be at the front of the queue.
I need to remind people who are asking questions in the comments section or on Facebook, if you post there, your questions will not be answered. So avoid being disappointed and please email us your question.
Okay, for those of you who are excited about the market and want to stop playing guesswork and start trading with confidence, then now's the time to give us a call. It doesn't matter whether you are just starting out or along the road somewhere in your trading journey. All you need to do is call 1300 858 272 or visit our website wealthwithin.com.au.
Well, that is it for tonight's show. I really wanted more.
I know, me too.
We hope that you not only enjoyed what we presented, but also received great value from our answers to your questions. So now it's your turn to help us. And right now, hit that subscribe button on your screen to say thank you to the team who put in a big effort to bring you this show each and every week.
Yeah, next week I might get my mouth to work too. Also remember to put this show into your calendar to join us right here live on the Australian Stock Market Show every Tuesday 7 to 8 p.m. If you'd like to have your question answered again on the next show, send an email to info@wealthwithin.com.au and type Wealth Within line in the subject, Wealth Within Live in the subject line. Remember, you must email and you must do so before 3 p.m. on the day of the show or while the question is fresh in your mind. Again, email us now.
As always, thank you for joining us and we hope you have a great week. We look forward to you joining us again next week. For now, goodbye, good luck and good trading.
I think I need new teeth.